Hi, you're watching Reddit Confessions. Subscribe for more real stories, and stick around till the end to tell us what you would have done. The last time I saw her was through a windshield, rainy, cracked, and distorted like the last 6 months of our marriage. She was sitting in the passenger seat of a car that wasn't mine, laughing like she hadn't laughed in years. I was at a red light. They didn't see me. I wish I could say I felt anger or betrayal, but the truth, I felt small. Not because she cheated, I didn't even know that yet, but because in that one moment I realized she had a whole life I wasn't invited into anymore. Fast forward 3 years. 3 years of microwave dinners and unmatched socks. 3 years of just one more episode alone. 3 years of avoiding restaurants with candlelight. I stopped going to weddings. I stopped RSVPing to anything that included the word +1. I even started carrying 2 grocery bags on one side, just to avoid the ghost weight on the other. I never told anyone the full story. Not my mom, not my therapist, not even the poor guy at the bar who once asked why I ordered 2 beers and drank them both in silence. Because saying it out loud meant it actually happened, and I wasn't ready for that kind of collapse until last week. My company dragged me to some leadership retreat, the kind where they force introverts like me to pretend we're excited about team synergy and breakout sessions. I was half listening to some keynote speaker drone on about innovation when I heard a glass shatter behind me. I turned around, and there she was, frozen in place, eyes wide, face pale, shoulders locked. Then she started crying, right there, in the middle of the networking floor. People turned to look. I stood there like a malfunctioning robot, and all I could think was, why now? Why tears? Why here? Why me? She had made her choice. She vanished. She didn't fight for us. She didn't even ask if I was okay when the divorce papers showed up unsigned by her. Just a sticky note that read, "Sorry, I can't do this." So, why now? Why cry like she was the one who'd been abandoned? That was the moment I knew. Something about her story never added up. And maybe she was about to unravel. The room went dead silent except for the soft hum of the overhead projector and the faint clinking of wine glasses. Jess's tears weren't the quiet kind, the kind that politely slide down cheeks while people pretend not to notice. No, these were the full-body, soul-leaking kind. Her mascara was smudging fast, and her chest was heaving like she had been punched in the gut. And there I was, holding a paper plate of sad-looking shrimp cocktail, watching the woman who left me crumble like a forgotten statue in front of 30 marketing professionals, and a keynote speaker who suddenly realized this was not part of his script. Someone tried to help her, an older woman in a red blazer, maybe a colleague, but Jessa pulled away and stumbled back a few steps. Our eyes locked, and she didn't say a word. Not then. Just that haunted look, like I was a ghost who had shown up to remind her of a crime she never confessed to. I didn't move. I couldn't. My legs were concrete. I kept replaying the last time I saw her before she disappeared from my life entirely. Her half-zipped suitcase, the smell of airport coffee, the way she avoided hugging me goodbye. Back then she told me it was just a wellness retreat. I'd never heard of a wellness retreat that involved not coming back. So, yes, I wanted to walk away right then. I wanted to pretend she was a stranger having a breakdown. But that would have been a lie, and I've told myself too many of those already. So I stepped forward, just one step, and that broke whatever fragile thread was holding her together. She covered her face and rushed out of the room, pushing past a table of interns, nearly knocking over a standing banner with our company's slogan on it, "Build What Matters." The irony was painful. A few seconds later, one of the HR coordinators whispered something to a guy near the door and followed after her. Everyone slowly went back to their networking dance, pretending they hadn't just witnessed a personal implosion. But I stood there, stuck in place, holding a soggy napkin, thinking, why was she here at all? She didn't work in our field. She had no reason to be at a corporate event 200 miles from where we last lived. Unless this wasn't a coincidence? And the worst part? Some tiny broken part of me hoped she came because of me. I couldn't stop thinking about it. The way she looked at me, not with regret, not even with guilt. It was something else, something I couldn't name. Like panic mixed with recognition, like a person who just realized the house they left burning down was still full of photographs. And, as pathetic as this sounds, I went looking for her. Not because I wanted closure. I gave up on that the day she vanished and left nothing but an unsigned birthday card on the kitchen counter. I went because I needed answers to questions I didn't even know I still carried. I needed to understand what about me was so easy to forget. I slipped out of the main room while people were still pretending to discuss cloud strategy and ROI metrics. I walked past the hotel ballroom, down the hallway lined with beige wallpaper and complimentary water coolers, until I spotted her. She was near the emergency stairwell, pacing like she was deciding whether to leave the building or her entire life. She didn't notice me at first, not until I cleared my throat like some awkward teenager about to confess something stupid. She turned, and her voice was the same, yet older. "Clive?" Just that, one word, my name. And I felt everything I'd spent 3 years building, the numbness, the distance, the therapy, wobble like a cheap folding chair. I wanted to scream. I wanted to run. But mostly, I wanted her to say something real. "Why are you here?" I asked. My voice sounded more solid than I felt. "I didn't know you'd be here," she whispered. "Don't lie. You never used to be bad at it." She looked down. "It's not like that." I laughed, and it echoed down the hallway. "Then what is it like, Jessa? You ghost me after 6 years of marriage, leave without warning, sign divorce papers without a single conversation. And now you cry in a conference room like I'm the one who hurt you?" She flinched, and for a split second I thought she was going to hit me. But instead, she stepped closer. "I didn't leave you because I stopped loving you, Clive," she said, her voice cracking. "I left because I knew something that I couldn't carry anymore." The words were vague, cryptic, convenient, but her eyes weren't lying, and that's what scared me the most. Not that she had disappeared, not that she had broken me, but that maybe I never really knew anything at all. And then, before I could press her, she said something that spun my world upside down again. "I wasn't supposed to see you today, but maybe you were supposed to hear the truth now." I stood there, arms crossed, heart racing, trying to wrap my head around what she'd just said. "I left because I knew something I couldn't carry anymore." That line had weight, like a loaded box she had just dropped at my feet, expecting me to open it without instructions. I wanted to scream that it was too late, that she didn't get to rewrite the narrative now, that 3 years of silence wasn't a preface to some revelation. But I didn't say anything. I just waited. Because underneath all my resentment and hurt and humiliation, I still wanted the truth. I needed it to make sense. I needed something to glue the broken pieces of my memory back together. Jessa looked exhausted, like someone who hadn't slept well in years, despite all her social media posts from exotic beaches and brunches with friends I never met. Her carefully curated life had no room for regret, until now. She leaned against the wall, hugging herself like she was trying to keep her bones from falling apart. "You remember that doctor's appointment I had? Right before I left?" I blinked. Of course I remembered. I drove her, sat in the waiting room flipping through a landscaping magazine, convinced we were just there to get answers for her recurring migraines. She came out 30 minutes later and said everything was fine. I didn't question it. I never did. That was my specialty, accepting what she said as fact, even when my gut begged me not to. "They found something in my scans," she said, voice nearly a whisper. "Something they thought might be serious." The word neurological came up. The specialist said it could affect memory, speech, even personality. But they weren't sure. They said it might stay dormant. Or it might not. My throat went dry. She paused, watching me, letting the bomb settle before continuing. "I didn't tell you. I couldn't. I saw how tired you already were, how much you were trying to hold our life together. I thought if I disappeared, you could restart. I didn't want to become a burden. I didn't want to be the reason your life turned into waiting rooms and medications and wheelchairs." I felt my legs weaken. My whole body tingled with confusion and rage. Was this real? Was it just another way to justify the unbearable silence she'd left me in? And even if it was true, how could she have decided for both of us? "Jessa, do you hear yourself?" I snapped. "You thought I'd rather be abandoned than be beside you through something difficult? You think I'd have walked away?" She wiped her face, trembling. "No, I knew you wouldn't. That's the problem. You would have stayed and resented me for it." For a second, I saw her differently. Not the villain, not the runaway, but someone who believed she was protecting me by erasing herself from my life. the kind of twisted logic people use when they're terrified. But it didn't make it right. "And now?" I asked. "Why are you here?" She took a breath that sounded like it hurt. "Because I got a new scan last week, and things are changing. I don't know what's coming, but before it does, I need to give you something back." She reached into her purse, pulled out an envelope, and handed it to me. I didn't take the envelope right away. It just hung there between us, suspended like some cursed object I wasn't sure I had the strength to touch. After all the nights I spent staring at the ceiling, wondering if I even mattered to her, this thin paper rectangle felt like it might split me open all over again. But curiosity is crueler than pain. So I took it. The seal wasn't licked shut. No name on the front. Just folded once, deliberately. Like she'd carried it around for a while, waiting for the right moment. Or maybe hoping the right moment would never come. "What's inside?" I asked, not even looking at it yet. She shook her head. "It's not a trap, Clive. Just read it later. Not here, not here. Not where my entire department could see me shaking. Not where people were sipping wine and networking over spreadsheets. Not in this sterile hallway filled with the scent of too much carpet cleaner. Fine." I slid it into my coat pocket like it was radioactive. She looked relieved, like that gesture alone had lifted something from her. But I wasn't about to let her off the hook with a dramatic envelope and a cryptic speech about scans and regrets. "So what now?" I asked. "You vanish, reappear, drop this on me like some emotional landmine, and then what? You expect forgiveness? A reunion? Sympathy?" Jess's eyes didn't flinch. "No, I don't want anything. I just want you to know the truth before—" She paused, her voice cracking. "Before the truth disappears with me." That line hit me harder than I expected. I hated that it did. I hated that I still felt this pull, like part of me had been waiting for this moment. Not to get her back, but to matter again. To finally be seen by the person who made me feel invisible for years. I wanted to walk away. I wanted to throw the envelope in the trash and erase her all over again. But I couldn't. And not just because I'm weak, because some stories don't end neatly. They splinter, they echo. And sometimes they claw their way back just when you think you've finally buried them deep enough. Before I could say anything else, she stepped back. "I have to go. I wasn't supposed to be here long. I only came because I heard through someone you might be on the guest list." So she had come for me. And somehow, that made everything worse. She turned, heels clicking softly down the hallway, and I let her go. Again. But this time, I had something I didn't have before. A sealed confession. A key to a door I wasn't sure I wanted to open. I stayed in that hallway for another 10 minutes, staring at the carpet, replaying everything she'd said. And when I finally opened the envelope later that night in my hotel room, the first line made my hands go cold. "You were never supposed to find out what I did the night before I left." My hands were shaking so badly I nearly tore the envelope open. I don't know what I expected. Maybe something vague, half-hearted, another attempt at rebranding her vanishing act as noble. But the moment I unfolded the letter and saw her handwriting, my chest tightened. It was familiar, intimate. I hadn't seen it in years, but it still carried the same tilt, the same confident curves that used to leave notes on our fridge. This time, there were no smiley faces, no hearts, just confession. "You were never supposed to find out what I did the night before I left." That line alone made my heart drop. I was sitting on the edge of a too-firm hotel bed, staring at that sentence like it had just rewritten my memories. "I told you I had a headache that night, remember? That I just needed rest before the flight, but that was a lie. I wasn't home, I wasn't even in the city. I was with him, someone I met through a work function. I didn't plan it, I didn't expect it, but I went, and I stayed the night." She didn't even bother to shield me with metaphors. No poetic phrasing, no gentle distancing. She'd cheated. The night before she disappeared from my life forever, she gave her body to someone else, someone I never met, someone who never had to earn her trust or build a life with her. My throat closed up. I kept reading even though everything inside me screamed to stop. "I thought if I came home the next day, I'd crumble. I thought you'd see it on my face and I wouldn't be able to lie well enough. I thought maybe, just maybe, if I left before you asked questions, I could protect you from what I'd done." I wanted to scream. "Protect me?" She obliterated me. She left me with 100 questions, and now I was getting answers I never wanted. But the worst part was still coming. What you don't know, Clive, is that I wasn't running from you. I was running from the version of myself I'd become. I felt small with you, not because of anything you did. You were good to me. Too good. You made me feel safe, and after a while, I confused safety with stagnation. I needed chaos. I needed to feel something reckless, and that night gave me that. I hated myself for it. I still do. Tears blurred my vision. I wasn't even angry anymore, just hollow. Her words were like tiny blades carving out what was left of the foundation I'd built in her absence. I wanted to throw the letter across the room, to rip it to pieces, but my hands wouldn't move. The last paragraph stopped my breath. I didn't think I'd live long enough to tell you this. But now that the scans are worsening, now that I see the edges of my mind starting to fray, I need you to have this, not to forgive me, just to know the truth before I forget it myself. I sat there, numb, the letter trembling in my lap. She hadn't come back for a second chance. She came back because her memory might vanish before her guilt did. And now I was left with a truth I could never unknow, and a woman who remembered just enough to destroy me one more time. I don't remember sleeping. I don't remember anything between reading the last line of that letter and standing in the elevator the next morning, my reflection staring back at me like a stranger. I kept replaying the same images in my mind. The night she told me she had a headache, the coldness in her voice, the way she avoided my eyes. I used to blame myself for being distant, for not asking the right questions. Turns out, I didn't ask because I trusted her, and she counted on that. That was the part that made it all feel so twisted. Not just the betrayal, but how calculated her silence was. At breakfast, I sat at a corner table pretending to eat while my coworkers talked about nothing. Someone made a joke about the keynote speaker mispronouncing synergy, and everyone laughed like they hadn't watched a woman fall apart just feet away the night before. I wondered if any of them knew it was her, if any of them realized she was the woman who'd gone missing from my life like smoke slipping under a locked door. My hands were shaking so bad, I dropped my coffee. I didn't apologize, I just stood up and left. Outside, it was raining, the kind of soft, annoying drizzle that makes everything feel heavier than it already is. I pulled out my phone and stared at her number. It was still saved. I'd never deleted it, just renamed it to Don't. But now, I tapped it, listened to it ring. She answered on the second try. "Clive," she said, like she was expecting the call. Maybe she was. "I read it," I said. "All of it." There was a long silence. I could hear her breathing, like the phone was the only thing holding her up. "I didn't know how else to tell you," she finally whispered. "I've lived with it every day. I think about it more than you'll ever know." "I didn't need the details," I said, my voice cracking. "I didn't want them. You left me broken. I rebuilt myself with duct tape and silence. And now you hand me this letter like it's a gift?" "It's not a gift," she said. "It's a confession." "Then let me confess something too," I replied. "I don't hate you. That would be easier. I wish I did. But what I feel now is worse. I feel nothing. And that scares me more than the anger ever did." Another pause. Then she said something I didn't expect. "I wanted to see you one last time while I still remembered who you are." The rain hit harder. My grip on the phone tightened. "I'm going to forget everything soon," she continued. "The scans show progression. Rapid. There are things I already struggle to remember, my passwords, dates, names, dreams. But I never forgot you, Clive. I never will." I closed my eyes. "I don't know what you want from me," I said. "Nothing," she whispered. "Just, if I disappear again, this time it won't be by choice. I need you to know that." And before I could respond, the line went dead. I didn't call her back. Not that day, not the next. I needed time to feel something real again, to let the truth settle without it poisoning what little peace I had left. But her words haunted me, and so did the silence that followed. A week passed, then 2. And then I got the message, an unknown number, simple, short, hospital, room 419. "If you want to say goodbye while I still know who you are." I almost didn't go. I paced my apartment for hours, rehearsing things I'd never say. But something inside me, something broken but still human, told me that if I didn't see her one last time, I'd carry that absence like an anchor for the rest of my life. When I walked into the room, I barely recognized her. She looked smaller somehow, not in size, but in presence. Her eyes flicked toward me, hesitant at first, then wide with recognition. "Clive," she said, smiling, "you came." I sat beside her. I didn't touch her hand, but I didn't pull away when she touched mine. We talked about nothing and everything. About the time we got lost in Vermont. About the dog we almost adopted. About how her handwriting used to tilt more to the left when she was tired. She remembered everything. For now. And before I left, she said something that will stay with me forever. "I broke us. But you were the only home I ever had. I don't know what forgiveness is supposed to look like. But in that moment, I let go of the weight I'd carried for 3 years. I stood, smiled softly, and said, 'Then maybe we were both lost for a while.' I walked out feeling lighter than I'd felt in a long, long time. No, this isn't a story about getting back together. It's not a love story. It's a closure story. It's about reclaiming the narrative when someone else tried to end it for you. Sometimes the apology comes late. Sometimes it comes broken. But it comes. And sometimes that's enough." Thanks for listening to this story here on Reddit Confessions. If you've ever had a moment like this, a shocking reunion, a long-awaited apology, or something that changed your view of the past, share it in the comments below. We'd love to hear your story. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow for more real stories that make you feel something. See you in the next one.